thing that is the most astounding to me is how far Joe had fallen in the clutches of alcoholism and the way it controlled his life. It's mind-boggling to try to think about what he had to do to unleash or unlock that grasp to become his true authentic self.
But Joe changes, and he overcomes that dark side, and it all comes together when he comes to Patagonia.
I am not impressed with anybody's title. I've fished with some of the biggest CEOs in the country, presidents of the United States, dignitaries for Europe and all. But Joe Brooks is one of the most impressive people I've ever met in my life.
The genesis for Argentine fly fishing began in a snowy Lexington Avenue outfitter's shop in New York City. Jorge DOnovan was traveling from Argentina, and he, by chance, met up with Joe Brooks, who was pretty much a traveling writer in those days.
Jorge meets Joe by accident at a fly shop in New York, and he invites Joe to come down. He actually comes down, I think, if I'm not wrong, in January of '55.
And that January, they didn't mess around, these two. In January, Joe's on a plane doing this milk run all the way down to Buenos Aires.
I mean, he saw opportunity to explore. I mean, the guy was an explorer and discoverer. Let's be clear about that point.
And in those days, getting to Buenos Aires isn't anything like it is now. It's not as simple as it is today. It's vastly different.
All of the scenery, mountains, trees, crystal clear glacial water.
Nobody knows about this place. It is hidden. The gem, it's that hidden gem type of thing.
He saw Candyland.
Argentine fly fishing before the 50s was restricted to a very tiny fraternity of people.
There was no pressure on the ecosystem. There were no fishermen fishing. And for Joe to arrive when he did, it was just a perfect storm. It's like somebody with all the ability to catch the fish in this environment, and there they are.
And you have all these, famous friends of Joe's, like Baby Anchorin is here, Jorge DOnovan, Andre Deganet. This is a place he used to stay in the 50s and 60s. Joe came down, probably 5, 6, 7 times. Yeah.
I mean, this is just a great
It hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
They would come all the way down to Patagonia, which was a long, long way, all gravel road. But they had the whole place to themselves, That was priceless. Being here in the 50s and 60s, man, I mean, even the 70s were great.
So he's 54 years old, so he's not exactly a young guy, is he?
No,
but he's mad fisherman, right?
Yeah. He brought fiberglass rods, fly lines that didn't exist here. They were fishing silk lines in Argentina back then. I mean, they were fishing like this with a book,
Yes, that's right. The English style. Yes, yeah.
All of a sudden comes Joe making a double haul like this with a fiberglass rod, and they were astonished. I mean, they couldn't believe what he was doing, which they hadn't seen ever before, you know. So they were totally mind blown when they saw that.
You know, and I can just visualize Jorge DOnovan and BB on the river. Joe's first cast must have freaked them out.
It gives you much more control of your line and much more accuracy and total control. You know, if you don't double haul, it means that you don't know how to fly cast.
These are guys who are restricted to a particular style because that's what they knew. But with that style, the environment was working against them. You had massive winds, you have deep water, you've got big fish.
You have to do away with that dogma of going like this, you know. People like Joe Brooks changed the sport.
And then he starts landing those big monsters.
You know, total heresy, you know, breaking the rules and going against the dogma.
He brought down the double haul. He brought down the fiberglass rods. He brought down the lines. He brought new techniques for knot tying.
The effectiveness of catching fish, using those flies, casting that way, using those rods, and reading the water. I mean, they have never seen that.
The impact is like walking into a dark room and turning the light on.
Well, it's just like a total paradigm shift.
He caught big fish, big fish, big fish, and then he puts it back into the water.
But Jorge actually was the one who actually understood that concept better than anybody else, Jorge DOnovan.
So Joe gives them all the tools and techniques to catch and kill more fish. But then he teaches them catch and release.
Very few people are open-minded in order to absorb and to actually embrace new things that change their dogma. It's those people who actually change the world.
Today, every trout caught here in northern Patagonia goes back into the river.
They were so passionate about that they actually were compelled to pass the legacy to others.
There are individuals, there are families, there are towns, there are whole communities that exist economically, are viable because of that inflection point in time and the manner and the character of the individual who was creating the change.
I think people are not aware of the magnitude of the importance of the things they're doing when they are doing this.
It changed their world.
The prophet is somebody who enlightens you of something you've never dreamed before, of a new truth, of a new certainty that actually changes your life.